Good morning. Welcome in the Out of Bounds Show. Brought to you by the Ram Trucks, Jeep Grand Cherokees, and pre-owned and new SUVs and trucks at Mack Hike in Flowood. Their dealership is loaded up with vehicles. They have the inventory. If you're in the market, MacHikeFlowood.com. MacHikeFlowood.com. We welcome in Tom Luginbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN on the Out of Bounds Show. Lugs, everybody's on the edge of their seat here for Ole Miss and Oklahoma over Jackson Dart and Michael Trigg. But Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Southern Cal, whoever lands him, Ole Miss or Oklahoma, what will they be getting?
I think the hottest commodity in the transfer portal to this point, aside from Caleb Williams, obviously that's a big get for Lincoln Riley and USC. But I think people have undervalued Jackson Dart in terms of the long-term viability of what he's going to bring. I say that, and I'm going to give you some history here on this kid. It's really interesting. So this kid, he was in the state of Utah. After a very, very strong junior year, he was getting lightly recruited. Probably not recruited to the point that he should have been, but nevertheless, just not seeing as much action. Then Utah decided to play high school football the fall of 2020 during the pandemic. And had they not done that, there is no way Jackson Dart would have even ended up at USC. He has a senior year that statistically was as good as I have ever seen over the last 16 years. So 67 touchdowns, over 4,600 yards, only turned the ball over 3 times, rushed for almost 1,200 yards. I mean, it was just – this is all in one season. So his recruitment happened late, and everybody got in on him. And I think that what they see is tremendous upside as a passer and a runner. A guy that's got a very, very bright future, ultra-talented, would be ideal in Lane Kiffin's offense. And I think that's one of the reasons, too, why Oklahoma is in on the sweepstakes is Jeff Levy and the offensive system and how he could fit. You know, with Oklahoma as a competitor in this sweepstakes, you've got Dylan Gabriel there. Jackson Dart does have a redshirt season. So it's going to be interesting to see if it comes down to those two schools. Is it, okay, I want to play right away or be in the mix to play right away, or I have more of a long-term vision. I have no issue sitting and being the backup and maybe redshirting and then having another 3 years after that. So, you know, a big decision to be made for the young man, but I think he's really, really good, Bo.
What Tom Luginbill talking Jackson Dart on the Out of Bounds Show and the Bucked Up Energy Drinks guest line. So, Lugs, who's his college comp? Jackson Dart.
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Put me on the spot on this one. To be honest with you, he's a lot like Matt Corral was. If I'm going to have something pop into my head on the spur of the moment, that lightning quick release, the ability to pull the trigger, the ability to take the front door, take off and run, and be a dangerous guy with his feet. I think the thing about him is he's a gunslinger. All right, he's one of those guys that plays with a riverboat gambler mentality. He can release the ball off balance. He can change his arm angles. He's a really functional QB. He's not one of those guys that is one-dimensional. Things have to be perfect in order to get the ball off. That's not the case with him. And I think that's one of the things that makes him dangerous is if he breaks the pocket, he can throw back across his body. He can make downfield throws off of pure arm strength. So, you know, when the game maybe breaks down or turns into a bit of a sandlot type of situation, he's kind of perfectly tailored for that.
All right, so you have him outside of Caleb Williams as the number one player in the transfer, as the number 2 player in the transfer portal, right?
Oh, yeah, I think without question. I mean, to me, I think he's the hottest commodity. He's got – and again, you know, he plays the quarterback position. Everybody's looking to upgrade at quarterback. Everybody's trying to figure out how do we get better than the opponent at quarterback. You know, we saw Harrison Bailey from Tennessee go to UNLV. I mean, I don't think he's a difference maker. We saw we've seen some other guys bounce around here and there. Robbie Ashford left Oregon. He's going to join Auburn. And, of course, you know, Zach Calzada moves from A&M to Auburn. But as far as a guy that I think is a significant athletic and physical upgrade, I don't think there's anybody in Jackson Dart's territory.
Where is Max Johnson on your list of transfer portal QBs, considering he moved from LSU to Texas A&M, Tom?
He's up there because he's played a lot. I think that's the thing is, he went into last fall, and I know things didn't work out very well, but the guy had thrown in 2 starts, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception, beat Florida on the road, played good football. And then when he played this year, played pretty good football. Hey, he's the reason LSU beat Texas A&M. I mean, it happened right in front of Jimbo Fisher's eyes. And so I think it was a fairly easy evaluation process for Texas A&M and the staff. You get a guy that's played a lot of football. He's smart, son of an NFL guy, and Brad Johnson. So I thought that was a big pickup. I think any time, particularly at the quarterback position, where you can upgrade your depth and upgrade your talent with somebody that's played a lot, because it's one thing to say, okay, well, we recruited this guy out of high school. We really, really liked him. Now he's in the transfer portal, but he hasn't played. That's a different conversation. There's a lot more gray area in that because what you think is what you think. When a guy's played, it's not only what you think, it's also to some degree what you know because there's a sample size. I think that's really, really important in all of this. And so, a guy like Jackson Dart played a little bit with very average personnel, terrible in the offensive line. USC couldn't run the football, but he played enough to study him, right? And I think that's really, really important in all of this.
So he could battle – Jackson Dart could battle Luke Altmaier.
Yeah.
Altmaier got thrown in the Sugar Bowl. I actually thought he looked pretty good considering the circumstances.
Sure.
But as far as comparing those two skill sets, you like Jackson Dart above and beyond, head and shoulders above a Luke Altmaier, Tom?
That might be a bit of a stretch. I don't know if I want to say that just yet. I do think he's got some attributes that are very, very unique, that are very impressive. But far and ahead, that might be unfair to Luke Altmaier because, listen, I like Luke Altmaier a lot too. We invited him to the Under Armour All-America game a year ago. Obviously, because of the pandemic, it didn't happen. So he's a high-profile guy too. And, really what this comes down to is wherever Jackson Dart goes, he's going to have to compete.
Sure.
He's going to have to fight and battle. And that's the part in all of this, Bo, that I think gets glossed over is all these guys think the grass is greener on the other side and that there's going to be all of these opportunities and this and that. Well, what they're really saying is, I want to be handed the job. I don't know if I necessarily want to compete for one. So they're all looking at the depth chart. They're all trying to figure out, okay, well, where's the easiest path? And unfortunately, in football as in life, that's not how it works. No matter where you go, you're going to have to battle. You're going to have to fight. Like, for example, Zach Calzada. All right, Zach Calzada starts 10 games for Texas A&M. Well, why in the world would you be in the transfer portal? Do you want to know why? Because he probably went to Jimbo Fisher, said, hey, I expect to be the starter. And Jimbo Fisher told him, well, we're going to battle for the starting quarterback position here. And that's kind of how we do things. The quarterback's got to win the job. Zach Calzada probably didn't want to hear that. All right? So because I'm trying to think of any other reason. Why would Zach Calzada be in the transfer portal? It's hard to find another reason.
Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show and the Corona Premier guest line. Okay, let's go to Georgia. We feel like Bryce Young's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC next year, but Georgia just won the national championship with the walk-on. Stetson Bennett the fourth, who is, he's limited, Tom. So now this has happened in the past at the pro level and the college level where every now and then a team will move off even though they've just won a championship. So they were able to bottle it, do it, get it done. Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs, first time since 1980, as you know. Do you stay with Stetson Bennett or do you hard charge for an upgrade at that position, Tom, knowing how limited and how low his ceiling may be?
So it's interesting you ask this question because I think this question is directly tied into the situation that Georgia has already been through with Jake Fromm and Justin Fields. Because I place zero blame on Kirby Smart in this one because You take over a team, right? You go into the season, and you think Jacob Eason's going to be your guy. He ends up going down. Jake Fromm, the true freshman, comes in, all right? And holy smokes, lo and behold, you're playing for a national championship. You bring in Justin Fields. What are you supposed to do? Put Jake Fromm on the bench? How do you justify that? Without having Justin Fields earn it, without him battling and fighting and scrapping and really pushing, Jake Fromm and having to earn the thing, you can't just take Jake Fromm and put him on the bench. And so I get what they did and why they did it. The answer to the question that you're asking now, though, revolves more around who they have at quarterback, not just Stetson Bennett, because I think if there's an area where Georgia has failed in recruiting, it's been the evaluation and signing of the quarterback position. I mean, they're the University of Georgia, and outside of Stetson Bennett, they don't have a Bryce Young waiting in the wings. They don't have a C.J. Stroud. They don't have a Matt Corral. They don't have a Jackson Dart. All right, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that and I'm going, all right, well, who do they have right now that's a better option than him? Who have they gone out and upgraded in recruiting that's a better option than him? And I don't know if there is one. So for now, they just may be playing with the guy that just won him a national championship, which could be fine. You're going to have great players around him.
Yeah.
Listen, at the end of the day, that's how Stetson Bennett put himself in this position. He didn't have to do it by himself. He didn't have to play above and beyond his ability level. He was smart enough to recognize the situation he was in, get the ball into the hands of the playmakers, do what's asked of you. All right, you're dominant on defense. You've got playmakers everywhere. Even when George Pickens was injured, you still had really good players to work with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where Georgia is right now until they see a significant upgrade, because I think that's the next phase, right? The next phase for Georgia, what is it? We know they're going to have access to great players. We know they're going to dominate their in-state recruiting. But here is the thing that I think stands out. Do you know what state Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson are from?
Georgia.
The next evolution of that program is when that next guy comes along, he can't go to Clemson. He can't go to Auburn. He can't go to Alabama. Mm-hmm. Whoever it is and wherever it is, the University of Georgia just won a national championship. You should have the access to every elite player at the quarterback position in the country, not just in your own state. And they've got to start getting some of those guys.
Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show. I think that there's a lot of risks there, though. I know it worked this year. And we tend to think, it can work. But I think Bama's going to be better, and I think Ohio State's going to be better.
But why, though? Look at the quarterbacks.
C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
All right, let me ask you this. I know it's not all settled yet, but with Georgia, and I know they've been recruiting, they may as well be number one, Bama, and now A&M. I mean, it's not a big difference, right? What kind of hit? I mean, are you expecting Georgia to be as loaded next year, Tom?
No, not as maybe loaded talent-wise, not as loaded experience plus talent.
Okay.
In the sense that, they're going to have some newer faces, but I don't think they'll have a drop-off in talent.
Okay. I just think you were able to play conservative football with Stetson Bennett at the fourth.
Sure.
And if Bama, and I expect them to take a step forward on offense, and Ohio State, I just don't know if you can still do it playing, like you said, with a guy who you just say, hey, don't screw it up. Because I just think that Bama and Ohio State, maybe one other team, Tom, will have enough firepower and playmaking ability where Alabama did not have that in the championship game, where you can't just use that model again. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, listen, lightning striking in twice in the same spot doesn't happen, right? So, yeah. What is your upgrade? What is the thing that allows you to still hang with an Ohio State or an Alabama, or even let's just say, if Clemson gets their quarterback situation remedied, they've got the same level of players as Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama, so we can't count them out of the equation either. But I do think they're going to have to come up with something, because now they've gone from being the hunter to the hunted, all right? And not like they're not already getting everybody's best, but, now they're guaranteed to get that. But I don't know how to answer that question without seeing more of a competitive balance within their 2 and 3 deep at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Because where does the upgrade come from? Right? Does Stetson Bennett all of a sudden become an entirely different guy than what he's been?
No, he
Probably
is what
not.
he
I think
is.
he is what he is,
Yeah.
and that's fine. He is what he is, and that is fine. And he's done something that no other player in 41 years at quarterback. And keep in mind, there was a lot of hype around Aaron Murray. All right, you had David Green, you had Eric Zaire, you had. We had DJ Shockley.
Stafford. All these guys.
Stafford, yeah, you had all of these guys, and none of them got even close.
Right.
And this guy won a national championship, so you got to give him credit for that. But I do agree, he is what he is.
Okay. Are you surprised, Dabo? As hot as Clemson's been, and let's be honest, they've cooled as a program. It happens. You become the flavor of the month overnight, and you can cool overnight. So are you surprised Dabo is not in the mix for Jackson Dart or Caleb Williams or you name it? You know more of them than I do. But are you surprised that because you always, if you can upgrade your room, upgrade it.
Right.
Are you surprised that they didn't go out and hunt a transfer QB, Tom?
To some degree, yes, but I know they love Cade Klubnik, the true freshman, who I think they believe will come in and not only battle DJ for the starting job, but could potentially beat him out. That being said, given the transfer portal, given the fact that they had exits, not entries, they had 2 walk-ons that were their second and third string quarterback in the Cheez-It Bowl, would have led me to believe that, okay, maybe we need to go get a guy that's played some. Right, and whether that's a Jackson Dart, a Caleb Williams, whoever it is, somebody that has played a little bit to really come in and again, and I've said this before about Clemson, the whole goal, and I know that Dabo's taken a lot of heat on this, and the whole goal of the transfer portal is to make your roster better. Okay, well, are there answers out there at quarterback that could potentially do that? Maybe so.
Absolutely.
Maybe so, but 99.9% of the other players at every other position in college football, how many of them are actually more talented than what Clemson currently has, or Alabama, or Georgia, or Ohio State? All right, you're seeing so many of these other programs. All right, like let's just take Michigan State from last year. They went out, did a phenomenal job in the transfer portal, phenomenal, but they had some real deficiencies on their roster. Not talented enough, not deep enough. So when that's the case, there may be a bunch of guys in the transfer portal that are better than what you currently have. But when you're in the top 1%, which a Clemson is, and Alabama is, and Georgia is, when a guy's in the transfer portal, why is he there? Well, because he's not playing where he's currently at. Well, if he's not playing where he's currently at, how is he supposed to go beat out somebody in Alabama? I can see it through Dabo's eyes. Now, does that mean that you don't find a situation here or there and you say, okay, this is the right fit, so we're going to take a flyer here and we're going to go do this? I'm not saying you don't do that. In fact, I think that Dabo probably needs to look at that a little bit harder as it relates to maybe a respective position or two. But by and large, people that are suggesting, why aren't you going in and recruiting the transfer portal? I totally see why he's not.
Boy, I think he's given up a great opportunity to add, 3 to 5 players every year. When everybody, the Sabans and others are doing it. So
yeah, well, no, now hold on a second though. Let's look at that. With Alabama, they brought in 2 guys, all right? 2 guys that they knew were upgrades, that they had recruited heavily, that had been finalists for their services at the high school level. They didn't go out and target a bunch of guys. 2, Henry To'oTo'o and Jamison Williams. All right, so those guys, were they upgrades? Yes. All right, did they help in depth? Yes. So you've answered the 2 questions. But by and large, that's 2 guys in a transfer portal of 2,500 players at one point.
Yeah.
And they happen to hit on both of them. I think the other thing that Dabo worries about a little bit, and I don't blame him here because I think all the coaches worry about this. You better do your homework in the transfer portal, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to bring in a bad element to your locker room. Right? You better find out, was this guy a locker room lawyer at his previous place? Was he an off-the-field issue? Was he a complainer? Was he a finger pointer? What type of guy is he? What are some of the reasons why he's in the transfer portal? Because the last thing you want to do is think you're upgrading with talent and bring a bad guy into your program.
Okay, fair enough. But for Dabo to not be a top 3 recruiter, to even dream of playing for it again, they've got to go at least get a couple of guys every year. We'll see, though. Tom Luginbill, national college football analyst with ESPN, on the Out of Bounds show. All right, what do you think about Kendall Briles possibly going? I mean, he's a phenomenal play caller. He's done a great job at Arkansas. That's been, they haven't necessarily just had an abundance of offensive talent, skill talent, so
right.
on. There are rumors that he could go to Miami. Do you really like him as an OC and play caller?
I do. I think he's really, really sharp. I think he's always kind of been ahead of the curve and, one step ahead of other people. I know oftentimes in that offense, many of the things that they were doing in those early successful years under Art Briles have been mimicked and copied by some of the college football's best programs. So there's obviously some proof in the pudding there. Listen, I think that he's always looking for ways to be innovative. He's always looking for ways to maybe advance what they're already doing, get a couple of new wrinkles. But what I like most about their mentality is that was an air raid foundation that transformed into a run-first, fast-paced, high-tempo, play-action offense in the passing game. And so they've done a great job of evolution through the course of college football, not just kind of stuck to the true air raid. They've really kind of made their own mark. And, Lincoln Riley did this a little bit. I think Jeff Levy's done it. There's Dana Holgerson has become a guy that's run the football a lot. Neil Brown wants to run the football a lot. And I think a lot of that started with Art and Kendall Briles at Baylor.
30 seconds. Do you think Anthony Richardson can be with Napier in Gainesville? Do you think AR-15 Anthony Richardson can be a star in college football at some point?
Yeah, potentially. I think what we saw with Levi Lewis at Louisiana in that offense with, when I say that, comparatively speaking, with the players that Louisiana was playing with compared to their group of 5 brethren and, the advantages that they had personnel-wise, maybe early on, Florida's not going to have some of those advantages yet. They're going to have to recruit to that. But I do think the offensive system and the fit and what they want to be does fit Anthony Richardson's skill set.
Bam. Thanks, Tom Luginbill. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Tom Luginbill, national college football analyst with ESPN, on Jackson Dart as a player and the fact that it's a good thing he played his senior year during the pandemic in Utah when they decided to make it a go, and he became a more sought-after recruit, eventually landed at Southern Cal, and now we'll see if he goes to Ole Miss or Oklahoma. Tom joined us on the Bucked Up Energy Drinks guest line. Bucked Up Energy Drinks guest line. That scares Blake every time I say it. It's the energy drink with the deer and the antlers. Check it out. Try it. You'll love it. We are the Out of Bounds Show, presented by Bank Plus. Hour number 3 coming up.